Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. The topic of this video is going to piggyback on my last video where I kind of talked about a life planning system I've been using that's based on the analogy or the metaphor of a garden. And in case you haven't seen that video, the high points were similar to when you plant a garden. You know that you have to take actions and do your part up front, whether it's planting seeds, tilling the soil, watering the plants, etc. But then there's also a more passive part of planting a garden where you have to step back, you have to have faith, and cultivate patience and wait in expectant anticipation, if you will, for the plants to grow. So there's the action part and the passive part. And one of my main points in that video was that it was very ironically more empowering. I'm finding it more empowering to almost surrender part of my goals rather than to think I have to do everything myself. And the reason for that is when I think I have to do everything myself, it might seem like that's more empowering, like I'm taking full responsibility. But really, if you leave no margin for magic or a higher power, or use whatever term resonates most with you. For some of you it'll be luck or destiny or fate, but use whatever resonates with you. But if you leave no margin for that, what I was finding every year up until this year is that I very quickly felt extremely pressured, extremely stressed, and ultimately overwhelmed and drained because I couldn't map out the entire 1,000-step staircase to get from where I am to where I want to be, and I ended up just abandoning things and giving up on them. Versus now, knowing that part of the process is not really up to me, but I want to do the parts that I can do, similar to planting seeds, I'm finding it so much more empowering. And that basically leads me to the point that I wanted to share in this video. In the spirit of sharing my passions on this channel, there's one thing that I have not touched on yet that's a huge part of my life, if not one of the most important parts of my life, and that is my personal spirituality and my spiritual practice. I adore the New Age spirituality genre as much as, if not more than, I adore like practical personal development and personal growth and positive psychology. I almost like the spiritual better. And the reason that started is because at one point in my life I was so overwhelmed and I was running myself ragged trying to do things my way, only to find that my way was not working out for me at all. And in surrendering my life to something higher than me, and I use the word God, but don't use that word if it's too charged for you. You can substitute anything that works for you. It's just the idea that there's something higher, a higher power that is helping you create what you want. So in surrendering to the idea that there's a higher power that's guiding me and that has a plan for my life that might be bigger and better than my own plan for my life started to get easier, get more flowy, get more joyful. And I'm still on an ever-evolving path of learning how to tune in and really hear what some of you will call God's will, what I call the universe or my higher self. Again, insert whatever word works for you. But it's this ever-evolving practice in my life to learn how to get quiet and receive guidance and kind of be in the flow of life and go downstream towards the things that I really want, as opposed to what I did for the first 22 years of my life, which was to kind of paddle upstream, and it was like pushing a rock up a hill, and it was endlessly frustrating, and I felt totally closed off from anything higher than me or anything magical or miraculous. None of that existed for me. And it was a really dark, kind of depressing, hopeless way to live. And that's why I made the transition eventually. And I find life to be so much more fun and joyful and magical. And there's so much more joy in the journey. And there's so much more falling in love with the process now, as opposed to before. I would just be like endlessly striving to achieve an outcome. I basically would be blind to any signals, both subtle and obvious, that I was on the wrong path until I had basically dug myself into a ditch, and those are what we call rock bottom moments. So the point of this video is twofold. One, I really was excited to kind of reveal my passion for spirituality, because that will be a huge focus and topic for so many of my videos, and I hadn't really talked about it explicitly yet. And two, a solution to stress is spirituality. I mean, I found my way out of basically never-ending stress by slowly but surely cultivating a relationship with a higher power of my own understanding and learning how to surrender, basically consciously surrender parts of my life over to that higher power. And the way I see it is, I'm doing everything I can do, but then I give up the outcome and I see what feedback I get back. And if I'm putting in a lot of effort and I'm getting a lot of positive feedback in return, doors are opening, I'm getting help, etc., that's a sign to me that what I'm doing is working. But if I'm doing what I can, and then things aren't happening in some reasonable amount of time, and it starts to feel forced, and it feels like I'm pushing a rock uphill or paddling upstream, I take that as a sign to change direction or try something new. And that always, every single time, alleviates stress, alleviates pressure, because inevitably when I'm feeling stressed or pressured, one of my core thoughts is, I have to do this on my own. I have to figure this out on my own. It's that on my own aspect that makes it so overwhelming and lonely, and I feel so dejected and just hopeless. But in opening up to, I'm doing what I can, but I'm working with something bigger than me. Yes, it's surrender, so on one hand it can feel passive to some people, but on the other hand, you feel empowered, you feel like you're going to do your action steps that much more wholeheartedly, and then you're just going to keep an eye out for the feedback you're getting in return and respond to that. So it becomes this almost relationship between you and your higher power, and you can sense that you're not doing everything alone, and it takes some of that pressure off, which ultimately is what's causing me stress, and I'm guessing there's some of you out there that can relate as well. So thank you so much, as always, for watching this video up to this point. I hope you enjoyed it, and I look forward to seeing you again soon. Bye.